Hello and good evening to anyone who is actually listening. I don't know if it is there because obviously I am late as usual. It's not my fault. You know, other people do happen to delay me. So there we go. I do apologise. I like to be on time, but it's like the 8:59 from Lancaster station. It's never on time, is it? Or wherever. No things are. Hello to Susie Ashenden. I hope you can hear me, Susie. Please tell me if you can hear me. Um, I'm a little bit too hot here, but there we go. Rushing around dealing with other matters is very difficult. And today has been a very sad day for me. So I will talk about that in a moment. How's the little creature? I'll come to that one as well. That's becoming a complete nightmare, that silly bird. But we'll come to the bird after. It's probably run away again. It's upset the neighbours, so the neighbours have made a complaint. But there we go. Yes, the little bird does seem to be a little bit of a pest, a petulant pest. So there we go. You can hear me fine. Well, there's 22 of you here. So anyway, whilst we're waiting for a few others, I'm very sorry that I'm over 10 minutes late, 16 minutes late, which is absolutely appalling. It is very poor form and it's disgusting. But I need to have organization in my life. I need to have my own life back and just be able to get on with my life because, quite frankly, with other people around, nothing ever gets done properly. It's just impossible. You have to be able to do things at your own speed. And I'm very much about punctuality, and I don't like not being punctual. So there we go. Yes, the neighbours sound very moany. Yes, they definitely are. Well, this one has been round complaining. Doesn't like the seagulls. So that's what the situation is. So, yeah, they don't want it escaping and coming in their house because it's ruining their carpet. So there we are. Anyway, we'll come to the seagull. But there we are. Anyway, it's been escaping all afternoon. So I don't know. Maybe it's time for it to move on. I think I've had enough of it, to be honest, as well, because it doesn't seem to behave itself, does it? And, it needs to have its freedom. So let it have its freedom. Birds need to be free. So from tomorrow, I think it's time to let it do its own thing. Right, okay. It's been looked after very well. But anyway, we'll come to that bird in a moment because we can have a debate about what we should do about it. But no, I have other things. You'd all like to meet in a bar in London. Yes, we could definitely do that. We can have a meet. We can have a. Well, I will arrange a dinner at PJ's restaurant in Chelsea because that's where I like to do these dinners. We'll get a speaker and you can all come along. So Susie Ashenden, I hope that might be a nice thing for you. Would you like that? We did them in the winter and they were very popular. So I think it's time we did a few more of those dinners, and it would be very nice to welcome all of you. So yes, the bird will ruin the carpet, precisely. It's a total, you don't want seagulls on carpets. That's not a good idea, especially when it's eaten all that stuff and it's drunk all that milk. There we go. Michael Barrymore was posting more crap, as you say, this week. Okay, by Paulie Gualtieri. Michael Barrymore never ceases to excel himself at making a complete prat of himself. He is a vile, disgusting man. Remember Stuart Lubbock. Stuart Lubbock was one man out of 9 who went to a party and he was the only one that didn't live. And all of those people are a pack of liars because none of them told the truth about what went on in that L-shaped bungalow, not a mansion, and they can call it a mansion. And here we are, bloody insects coming in at me from all angles. There we go. But if I don't have the door open, I'm going to overheat. Yes. So, no, Michael Barrymore is a shameful man. He lied that he couldn't swim. Why would he buy a house and build a swimming pool if he couldn't swim? And Cheryl, his ex-wife, who was his manager, and she tragically died of cancer. I'm told she was actually a lovely person. she pointed out all of this as well. So sorry, I'm moving this light around because, quite frankly, I look ridiculous, and these insects are coming at me like no end. So, oh god, it's really bad, this insect thing here. Insect mania here tonight. Right, this house should have had nets but it doesn't. So there we go. Right, good evening to you all. We want to meet in a pub in Pendle. Well, we could talk. One day I might come to Pendle. Yes, Pendle is a fascinating place. I know a lot about Pendle, the Pendle witches, because of course they were tried at Lancaster Castle, which is where when my parents got divorced. My mother bought a beautiful Georgian house right next to Lancaster Castle, and it was right next to the court, which and of course it was a prison at that time. It's no longer a prison. It's now I believe a museum, and my sister has visited, and my father goes there for coffee with his wife and my mother occasionally. They all meet together, and they say they have a lovely time, and there's a wonderful coffee company there if you're into coffee. I don't like coffee, but I can't remember the name of it. It's not Taylor. It's a bit like Taylor's of Harrogate, but it's something of Lancaster. But I didn't like coffee, so I was never very interested in it. But it was a very famous coffee shop, and Lancaster is a famous Georgian town, a great port. In fact, it was a huge port. It was bigger than Liverpool at one point as a port during the slave trade, and of course there are many things there about that. And of course the woke want that cancelled. So Lancaster has there's a little place very near it which gets flooded by the tides. You can only get there at certain times of day. It's got a lot of beautiful Georgian houses. I can't remember the name of it, but it's got a grave of somebody called Sambo, and Sambo's grave. Well, now the woke want the name changed, because even though Sambo was the slave who sadly died and was buried there, they want it called something else because obviously that word is offensive. So I read today that in AI, the word Welsh was considered offensive. Somebody tried to write a wedding speech, and AI said you can't use the word Welsh because it's offensive. So there you go. Welsh is offensive. So Sambo definitely is. I've never tried AI. I don't like AI. I'm not into it. I don't agree with it. It will add to the world in some way, but it's destroying artists. It's a shameful thing in my view. I'm not an AI person. Somebody submitted me an article written in AI. They lied to me and said they'd written it themselves. Well, subsequently, I got a hell of a lot of abuse when I published it because I used their name and everything else. It wasn't my name, but we published it on our site, and we had to remove it, to be honest, because it was frankly not good enough. We edited it, but we didn't fact check it enough. So always check the facts. I'm very into facts, but this thing was so long, and they claimed they knew everything about it, but they'd really written it with AI, which was a very terrible thing to do. And no, AI steals from musicians, and I can understand why musicians are getting upset, and writers and everybody else. AI is terrible. But anyway, going back to Lancaster, yes, the port of Lancaster was a huge port for slavery, because it was next to the Irish Sea and all of that, and Morecambe Bay, and it was a good place to bring in people, and that's why it prospered as a town, and that's why we ended up living in a lovely Georgian house there, because which was my last year at school, and I had complete freedom because my mother was hardly ever there. So I had a house in the middle of the town, and all my friends could come round, and we had great times because we had a lovely house that was just perfect for parties. And I could walk to school in 10 minutes, and I didn't have to have any trouble about that, anything really. It was a lovely place to be. So, no, I had good times there in those days. And now the place has, I believe, prospered as a university town. My mother was involved briefly in the Lancaster University as well, which is now a thriving university. So, it's grown and grown, that place. But in those times, it was very much the slavery trade. So there we are. There we go. Right. Right, you've got some questions for me. I'm just going backwards. The world has gone mad. Welsh Sambos. I don't know what a Welsh Sambo is, but there we are. Anyway, we probably shouldn't use the word too much because we'll probably get banned. Because I believe on our other channels, I've been watching. I've been on the phone to my friend Victoria, horse racing Victoria, who was on another channel. I'm not going to say which, obviously. And because of some row between two people, her program's been taken down. And I think that's a great shame because she put in a lot of effort and brought in lots of other mothers to try and help. And I think that these two men should man up, grow up, and get together and put it all back, because Victoria is a wonderful lady and she's done no harm to anyone. I've tried to ring both of them. I've spoken with one of them, and he said he would speak with Victoria, but he has sent her a message, and the other one hasn't sent a message. And anyways, I'm not getting involved in their row. I don't think there's any need, but I will say, please grow up. Thank you. That's all I have to say. We all say big up to Victoria, Tina De Silva. We totally do. Victoria has been through a hell of a lot. She's been in prison. She's been a jockey. She's been a racehorse trainer. She's had her children taken away. She's fled the country. She's been through hell and back. And, what a great lady. She's courageous. She's a fighter, and she's winning again. She's back on the racetrack, winning again. You can't fault that lady. Wonderful. Absolutely brilliant. Victoria Haig, I salute you. Lovely lady. And now there's 104 of you here. I will start to speak. So today I sadly found out that my friend Martin Ellis-Jones tragically died. A lovely man. He was completely crackers, I will admit. He was the Mad Hatter. He was the biggest top hat dealer in Britain. Anybody who wanted a hat for Royal Ascot went to Martin Ellis-Jones of Walpole Street. He had the most amazing collection of hats on the planet. Hats that cost tens of thousands of pounds, that were historic and had been worn by, Edward VIII or whoever. He had the cheap deal, which most people went to him for. He probably had the mid-range deal, and then he had the historic hats, and he had hats made out of beaver and all sorts of bizarre things. And he once took me to lunch in Sydney Street at a little restaurant in a garden, and he gave me a whole description of the history of hat making, and how the Mad Hatter existed because of the arsenic and whatever it was in the thing that they made the hats with. He was a lovely, lovely man. He lived in Cheltenham primarily as well, and he did have a wife, and he did have a lady friend as well, who I believe has predeceased him, Irish. Yes, it's very sad to learn that he died in the circumstances he did. I won't go into that, but he added joy to the world. He was a bit of a boozer. He loved a lunch. He was always in La Brasserie. He was always in PJs. He was always in all the hostelries of SW3 when he was in London. And he was a very kind-hearted, decent man. And during COVID, he came to trust some man who tried to help him with his business because he wasn't very into technology, and it didn't really work out, and I don't know what happened after that, but we kept in touch, and he got to use Facebook. He grew to use Facebook, and he communicated via that quite often, but then he suddenly just vanished, and that was the end of that. So and today I learned that sadly he had died. So rest in peace, Martin Ellis-Jones. Many of you will remember him. And my friend Rex, who was on the phone, who lives on the boat, Rex, who owned Foxtrot Oscar, I phoned him and to ask about something else, which I won't go into either because it's a private matter. But he was having dinner tonight with Anthony Worrell Thompson, who, of course, used to run restaurants in the area as well. So the two of them were both rather upset to hear the news. So there we go. And Anthony Worrell Thompson's been a good supporter of this channel as much as Rex. And Rex, of course, is on Talk Radio Europe. He does regular shows on there, and Rex the Sex. Follow him on Twitter. He's a great person. He lives on a boat on the Thames, and he used to run Foxtrot Oscar. So he ran other restaurants also, and he ran the Playboy Club, the original one on Park Lane in London. Well, not the original one in America, but the original one in England. So Rex has had an amazing life in hospitality, and he is a great connector, and he organizes wonderful lunches. And Martin Ellis-Jones was a similar sort of bon vivant. He enjoyed life. So you have to remember such a great person. And thank you to Trudy Juggernaut for sharing with me the information that sadly I didn't really want to hear. But may we remember Martin Ellis-Jones fondly, because sadly he was cremated and there's no funeral and there's no anything else, and that's the end of that. So I don't know how he can be remembered, but other than I raise a glass to Martin Ellis-Jones, and he would not approve of this. He was more of a red wine drinker, if I recall, and he certainly liked whiskey. So anyway, I remember Martin Ellis-Jones fondly. So there we go. Was Rex once in Big Brother? No, Rex wasn't in Big Brother. No, not on any occasion. Rex and I did do an interview for the Goggle Box. He was one of the people I did it with, and they would have loved to have had him on, but unfortunately he wasn't allowed by other people. So that sadly didn't happen. Cheers to Martin, yes. So we remember Martin fondly. Martin was a good man. So in life, we always must remember the good folk, yes. So anyway, right, okay, let's move along. Have you any questions at this stage? Any questions? Did they find Madeleine yet? Okay, well, we can move on to that topic. The new search has ended. The search has finished. So, well, they haven't declared anything. Maybe they did find something, but they've taken all the tents down. They went from Tuesday till Thursday, and that's the end of that. So there's no more searching for Madeleine. So that's the end of that. They were searching primarily on what was called the fisherman's trail. It was where wild campers, hippies, drifters, and rough sleepers went. Bruckner used to park his camper there, allegedly, because it was an easy run into Pride of Luz. The Daily Mail described him as the conceited, a rapist and paedophile, which I don't disagree with. He's a horrible, horrible person. But that does not mean that he is the person who took Madeleine McCann. Yes, he could be released on the 17th of September, but there is a problem for him. Allegedly, he's broke. He also has been convicted of 1,500 euros of motoring fines, car-related fines. So if he doesn't pay, they'll keep him till the 6th of January. So that's the current situation. But he was cleared of unrelated sex attacks between 2000 and 2017 in October 2024. I say this looks like another fine mess. That is my view of this story. I think that this is another fine mess. They've closed down the search. They were meant to carry on the search till Friday. They've closed it down early because clearly, as usual, the little policeman went on holiday and now they can go and play golf tomorrow, can't they? That's what they want to do. These policemen, Every summer, they love a little jaunt to Praia de Luz because it's got lots of lovely golf courses. So, like Jerry and Kate love to play tennis and go jogging, the policemen like to go to the golf course. But anyway, as I said, the latest is the search has ended and it looks like another fine mess. Now, this morning in the Telegraph, the Max Stevens, international crime correspondent, talked about another angle to the story. He said that it's a shoddy German officers were searching too wide an area. The former police chief, Giancarlo Amaral, has said this. He said the Germans should have had nothing to do with the investigation. This was a British police strategy with support from the Portuguese police. We've already searched the area it's being looked at. There's nothing new. He won a libel case against the McCanns. He won £600,000 against the McCanns over the book The Truth of the Lie. He is somebody who the McCanns have wronged. He said this much wasn't needed. A plane with geo radar would have been enough and reduced the search area. So there we go. He doesn't have any faith in it. Then a lady called Ruth McLean, a neighbour of Bruckner's for approximately 14 years. He lived there till 2006. Madeleine McCann went missing on the 3rd of May 2007. He didn't live there when this child vanished, all the rest of it. You'd like me to put a light on? Well, I can't change the lighting, unfortunately. The light is just the way it is. Lighting is not something I have any power over in this house. Lighting is very weak in this house. Unfortunately, it's not good, the lighting here. So unfortunately, I will not be able to do that. So you just have to cope with the light as it is. I can't move any cables any further. So that's the end of that. Do you think the church they kept visiting has any connection? Asks Camel Toe. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But who knows? Anything could be true. But no, this lady, Ruth McLean, she used to go horse riding in the area with her horse. She still does. She moved to Portugal in Portugal in the 1980s. She described him as a volatile young man who could constantly be heard having loud arguments with his girlfriend. Bruckner is believed, according to the Telegraph, to first move to the small village of Sitio de Lages, I don't know how you pronounce it, near Praia de Luz in 1992, and he left in 2006, by the way. She recounted seeing him almost daily while taking her horses for walks, says the Telegraph. He was my neighbour. He was German, young, quite angry, she told the Telegraph. I would hear him having arguments with his girlfriend. Miss McLean said he was renting the property next door and that she didn't consider him a friend. Nobody knew the implications that we'd all heard about now, though, throughout the world. She said, he raped a lady in the town. I heard about that afterwards, just a ghastly piece of work, but I didn't know of him being a ghastly piece of work at the time. So there you go. That's the view of the neighbour. So that's one thing that has happened today with that case. But the police officers have belted up, wrapped up, and shown up. I don't know if that helps. Move it around. Go around. Yes, here we go. It's like, now I look orange. It's very hard to do lighting in this situation because the other light is stupid upright light. So. And there are no other lights down here. So, unfortunately, we don't have lighting in this place. It's very primitive. Anyway, there we go. So, yes. So what do you think? What do you think of the investigation? Do you think the investigation will lead anywhere? Right. Okay. I could sit backwards. Yes. Yes. Oh. Oh, I'm just doing my TV show. I'm just doing my TV show. Oh, no. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, I'm just on television. I'm on a program. I'll deal. Right. Oh. The neighbor who doesn't like the bird has decided to tell us it's come back. So, right. Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. No, the little bird is wandering around. It's decided it wants to wander around the vicinity, and obviously the neighbor does not like it. So German people don't like this bird. Clearly, the Germans on the other side of the water didn't like the other bird, and this neighbor doesn't like that bird. So the bird is Mini Thatcher is not popular with the neighbors, so better go and rescue it at some point soon. But I think it'll calm down if it just goes back in its little box. So maybe I better just check on it. I will be back in 1 second. Let me just check. Oh, Lord. Right, where are you? I feel like the Birdman of Alcatraz or something here. The wild man of the Birdman of whatever it is. So, oh dear. Anyway, the bird is little Mini Thatcher is causing havoc. It likes to go and wandering about now. It's getting more and more picky about what it eats as well, and it seems to be on the verge of trying to escape. Well, it escaped yesterday, and then it came in through the house. But it's been in the neighbor's house, and she doesn't want it near her carpets, which I cannot blame her. She doesn't really have carpets. She's got some rugs, but nobody here has carpets because it's all, terracotta flooring and all the rest, because it's by the sea. So, yes. Well, it's a naughty little bird. And there we go. Oh, we've got Victoria here. So, yes, Victoria. We did talk about the lovely Victoria before she arrived. So, yes, Victoria on another channel has been taken down. I haven't named the other channel, and it's not correct that Victoria has been taken off the other channel. And I've tried to ring the proprietor of the other channel, but he hasn't answered my phone calls. Maybe he's a very busy man. I know he is, but it would have been polite for him to have explained why he'd taken down all these videos. But he has sent Victoria a message in the time since. So supposedly it's to do with videos that aren't, enough traction or something to do with this child and being sleepless or something. So anyway, there we go. Right. I'm not going to refer to anyone by name because that's not correct. I don't think I should do that at this stage on this channel because that's not correct. Anyway, the little bird is not popular with our neighbor. So the neighbor doesn't like it. So, right, I'm going to have to keep it under more control. I'd better put some things in the hedge to keep it out from escaping because the German doesn't like it. So she wants it dead. She wanted it thrown in the water earlier. So she wants the bird out. Well, no. the bird and I are kind of bonded now. So Mini Thatcher is staying where it is for the moment, but it might need to have some things put in the hedge to keep it. No, it has to keep out from escaping. The woman in the background screaming is not helping.
It has to come here.
It cannot come here because there is no fence here. It has to stay where there's a fence, and there's a fence.
But the woman doesn't want him.
No, but we have to just put some things in the hedge to stop it getting back out of the hedge because it's escaping through the hedge. Anyway, we're not going into the semantics of the poor bird. I'll show you a picture of the poor bird. It's doing very well. This is not a picture from today, but let me find you a little picture of the poor little Minnie Thatcher. So. Well, here you are. You can even
rescued a little fledgling seagull, and the little creature has been making quite a squawking noise. We need to think of a name. I don't know what we're going to call this one, but this one seems to like bread, ham, and milk. I'm told that you should feed them dog food, but unfortunately, I don't have any dog food. But
we did get the dog food.
Is now safe from the nasty birds that were attacking it. Cheers, and hope you're having a lovely day. Bye-bye.
That was a couple of days ago, so that was a thing there, and then I think I took a picture of it, so I'll see if I can find you a picture. Find you a nice picture of it. Oh, here you are. Here's a nice picture of it. There you are. There's the little bird. There's the little Minnie Thatcher. Anyway, the German doesn't like it. Marguerite, the German, does not like it, and she wants it thrown in the sea. She said it can swim. Well, it can't swim because the other one was thrown in the water and it died. So I'm not going to be doing that, and I won't be allowing her anyway. She's been round here just now screaming and yelling about it. Anyway, as I told her, it's not a crow, it's a fledgling seagull. And they love dog food and they love anything that's mush, basically. So we made a chicken soup the other day, and we're not eating the chicken soup. The chicken soup is for little Minnie Thatcher because it's food. I think it deserves to have it. It's its food because it eats it. So we're not having that anymore. And it likes milk and it likes Pellegrino. So it's getting Pellegrino. And Pellegrino is good for it because it's giving it minerals, and that will help it build up its energy. And one has to look after beautiful nature. I live on a farm growing up and all the rest of it, in the countryside. And, obviously you have to control nature. But in this situation, when it falls off the roof in a sort of Coronation Street type suburban little place where they're all kind of little hoity-toity people who moan and groan, oh, we don't like it. Well, if you don't like seagulls, don't live by the sea. But equally, this poor bird, it's not at a stage where it can look after itself. So it's the kind thing to do. And, and there's this wonderful story of the leveret. And everybody has written letters about this. The lady who was William Hague's special advisor, who has written this book, I'd love to read that book. I must get hold of a copy of it somehow. A gentleman kindly wrote to me this morning saying he'd send me some books because I need some books to read. The only book the Spike Milligan book filled me with no joy. That's the only book I had left. I've obviously read Giles Brandreth, and I've got the book about Robin Williams, but the book about Robin Williams, it's sad for me because I knew him, and equally, I'm not really into all the comedy stuff that he did. And it's more about the comedy than the kind of Mrs. Doubtfire bit, the funny bit, in my view, at this stage. So I'm not really excited, but it's written by his secretary or whoever it was, and it's kind of a bit boring. So it's not the best book I've ever read, and I'd love some decent books to read, and you can't buy English books here. It's very, very hard, and I'm totally useless with computers, and I don't have a computer at the moment. As you know, I've got a borrowed computer, and I don't have my accounts. I can't get on the Amazon and all that because I could, but if I knew the passwords, but I've forgotten them because they're all in the thing. So anyway, the little bird, it's quite okay in that little garden if it doesn't keep going out and going to her garden. because if it goes near her garden, she's getting more cross. She's very cross about the mess it's making. And anyway, I pretended I didn't know anything about feeding it, and well, she hasn't worked it out that we're feeding it yet. So for the moment, we'll keep quiet. But I better hide the bowls because she might work it out. But the bowls are under the table, but I better put something to hide them, because otherwise she might know. She's clearly not got great eyesight, because she hadn't seen them, which, quite frankly, I see them every time I walk by. There we go. Right. Okay. Right. Yes. That's so terrible. Mark Silver says, I live in Rotherhithe in London. I'm so sad some idiot is poisoning foxes here with antifreeze. Well, that is disgusting. That's not very nice. You shouldn't do things that. What would I do if I lived there? Well, I would put a stop to this person. I'd run a campaign. Well, why don't you start a petition on change.org or something against them? Talking of which, we must come to my petition. It's gone well over 1,000. I don't know what the number is, but let's have a look. I don't know. Let me see if I can find the sloth petition. Yes, here we go. Yesterday it was at 999. We're now at 1,011. So thank you to all of you who have signed the sloth petition. I don't know how I do this, but I'm going to try and do it because this is a PC and it's French. I can try and paste it. Please sign if you haven't signed already. I think I pressed Command V or something. I don't know, but it's different on a P. There we go. Right. Please sign my petition for the sloths. 1,011 of you have now signed. Anyway, this neighbor does not want the seagull here. She wants it gone. She demanded earlier I pick it up and throw it in the ocean. Well, not the ocean, the marina or whatever you call it. And I said, no. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, I won't touch it because the poor bird will then be contaminated. You don't touch birds because then the other birds get upset with it more and then they attack it. So I said, no. And she went, I don't want it in my house. I said, well, close your door. It's not my fault the bloody bird goes off wandering. I can't help that. It will get out through the hedge, but we can try and keep it in. And good evening to Cult Television, my good friend. Hello to you. Yes, what would you say of Minnie Thatcher, the Seagull, Cult Television? I'd like to know your thoughts. Should I agree with the German and throw it in the sea, or should I allow it to stay and keep feeding it? What should I do? What do you all think? What about all the rest of you? What would you do? Yes. Steve R says you should not keep a sloth as a pet. Well, Steve R, I hope you've signed my petition. Please sign. If you haven't already, you've had the petition, I will give it again, just in case. Right, I'll keep giving that. Victoria. Right, Victoria. Right. Okay. You want to meet somebody. Okay, Victoria. Okay. Well, if you want to meet somebody, there's loads of people to meet here. So there's 148 already. Well, there may be more because I don't understand what these numbers mean. It says 36 likes. I don't know what that means. I've no idea what 36 likes and 148 faces, 149 faces now. But now we've only got 37 thumbs up. So I don't know what any of this means. I don't understand technology. I don't know how it works. I don't really care how it works. I'm just able to do what I can try and do. Right. Yes, we don't want Victoria to meet just anybody. Victoria must meet somebody extremely special because she's an extremely special lady. So cheers to Victoria. Likes help boost the channel. There we go. Anyway, what do we think about the little Minnie Thatcher? Should it be thrown in the water as the German instructs? And she is demanding. Or should it be left in peace in the little garden where it's doing no harm but keeps escaping from? It does go on a wander, that's for sure. But yesterday it went on a long wander, but today it's obviously wandered towards her house, and that's obviously been a problem. So we don't want it to wander towards her house, but we can't stop it wandering towards her house on the dock. So there we go. Protect it always. Okay, right, yes. Yes, it should be left in peace, precisely. I totally agree with you. I should send Victoria a link to join the show. I don't know how to do that. I have no idea. I don't know how to have other people on this channel. I think you have to use something called StreamYard, and I don't really know how it works. I'm technically inept, but Victoria is fabulous and wonderful and great. So, yes, the seagulls are protected under French law. They're protected under British law for sure. So I don't know about French law, but probably they are. But the gardeners came round earlier because they wanted to have a look and check on the seagull, and that was why they came to have a look, and they were delighted to see that it was being well fed. So they were quite popular. They were quite positive about it, but unfortunately the German is not very happy. So now the light has gone even more weird. I don't know why, but it's just suddenly gone like I'm in a submarine or something. Oh dear. I wish I could have put the light on the table and it come down on me, because that would be better. But unfortunately, the light won't reach, so we can't do that. I might have to think of another solution tomorrow. I think I may have a way of doing this. I'll try tomorrow, but I can't do it right now. Okay. We don't need a wildlife rescue. No. £10 for food for Minnie Thatcher from Tina De Silva. We've had a donation of £10 to feed the seagull. Well, that'll pay for four cans of dog food at the local shop, because that's what I was giving it. So they're £2.50 each dog food. That'll keep it going. It gets through a can of dog food a day if it gets dog food. So yes, it would like that. That's very kind of Tina De Silva. What a generous, kind lady you are. Food for Minnie Thatcher. Thank you. So we'll keep trying, but it's loving my chicken soup, and it loves milk, and it loves Pellegrino. The bread, it's kind of a bit difficult with it. It likes some bread, but it doesn't like other bread. I think it prefers what's called the American bread here to the French bread. So it's obviously got good taste. It's obviously like, Margaret preferred Ronald Reagan to Jacques Delors, obviously, so there we go. Margaret was a great, the great relationship between America and Britain. So the American bread is a natural thing for the little bird. I don't know what it's doing now, but I can hear noise. I hope it's not trying to escape again, and I hope it's not going near that lady, because she's a very nice lady, but she doesn't like that bird. Oh dear. She's not going. She's chasing it around. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Right. Are you sure it's not a bald eagle? No, it's not a bald eagle. No, it's a tiny little fledgling seagull, Victoria. It's not, if it was a bald eagle, it would be a little bit more aggressive than this little thing. It makes terribly little noises, and it's not a swan. No. What are the shades? I've no idea. There's some silly cheap thing. Nothing special. I used to have lovely sunglasses, Purcell and all of that, but these ones, and when you're driving a car here, you have to have sunglasses. It's impossible because the sunlight is bad, and the when you're on the road sometimes, because it's beautiful weather. So it wasn't beautiful weather yesterday, but it's certainly better today. Right, we've got it's not a monkey in a waistcoat. And thank you for your condolences, Wits End. Yes, Martin was a lovely, lovely man, and may we all remember him. He was the best man in top hats. He knew the history of everything to do with top hats. Every single person went to him. All the most famous people in the world for Royal Ascot, would go to him. His client list was unbelievable. And he'd done it for 60 years or 50 years or whatever it was. He was the best in the West. So you can't beat Martin Ellis-Jones for his top hats. But but he wasn't very good with promotion. That was the problem. He should have got into the internet and all the rest of it, because he would have done a hell of a lot better because of the COVID situation. And then that's when his decline began, I think, really. And it's very, very sad to hear of what's happened to him, because the end wasn't very, very pleasant. And I'm not going to go into how it happened, but it's very, very sad. He used to communicate with me via Facebook. He got into that for his personal things, but he never ever did any business promotion, which was a problem. And then along came some crook or whatever, so that was a bit of a problem. And but other things happened, and it's very, very sad. So he provided entertainment to the world, and he was a Welshman who was a bit wacky, who lived in Cheltenham and lived in Walpole Street in Chelsea. And anyway, it was very sad to hear this. So I'm very upset about that today. That was a very, very sad moment. And I've got other things going on that are not very pleasant, but, you plod on. That's what you have to do. There we go. You have your moments. And, I went for a walk. And we're all over this place today. I went towards this beach, and this German lady has told me no one can go on the beach. Oh, there's some disease on the beach or something. There's something in the water, so the beach is closed properly. So you can't actually go to the beach. And the beach restaurant is closed because of the problem with the beach. So there's no going to the beach here. There's something in the water, some kind of algae or something, she tells me. So we can't go near the beach. Anyway, she wanted me to chuck the bird in the water. Well, that's not a very good idea if the water's got contaminated. So that's a very bad idea. So I'm not going to be complying with her wishes. And she's certainly not going to pick the bird up herself. So the bird is safe from her. Let's be honest, because she's certainly not a kind of person who can pick up the bird, because she'll be terrified. Yes. Right. Probably the German wanted her beach towel down, says Stevie D. She sounds like a barrel of laughs. She's actually very nice normally, but not over this bird. Certainly not. So there we go. Where's our Scylla? Right. You want a date for Victoria. Victoria asks, Colt, is that a name? Colt is a nice person who's a lovely man. He's a good friend, and you both get on very well because you both got a dry sense of humor, but you're in different places, and I don't really think if I was Scylla, I'd say it wouldn't be a match other than friendship. So there we are. I don't think you should date. No. There we go. Yes, I don't think we're trying to find Victoria a date. I didn't realize I was a dating show. We've got other things to do here. Cult doesn't do dates. Well, you can do friendship, can't you? You could be friends with Victoria. Victoria is a lovely lady who's in horse racing and all the rest. And you're bon vivant, and you like a beverage, and she likes a beverage, and we can all have a nice time. We can all have a nice dinner. So let's do that instead. I think that would be a nice thing to do when we could all get together, when we're all in the same place. But you are in Canada, she's in France, northern France, and I'm in southern France. It's not really practical right now. So there we are. Right. Okay, you're all proposing marriage to one another and asking me who I'll date. Well, I'm quite happily single. I'll remain happily single for now. Thank you. But right. Okay, let's move along. I have other things to talk about, so let's move to another topic because this is getting a little bit silly. I didn't expect to have the neighbor come and interrupt the program and start shouting at the seagull. But anyway, the little bird is probably cowering under its little chair, eating its chicken soup, which is very wholesome. It's not like a liquid chicken soup. It's bits of vegetables and bits of chicken and everything else that I had left over from one of the chickens from the weekend, and it seems to love it. So it's already had 4 portions today. So it's a very greedy bird, and it loves milk. So we give it lots of milk. It's gone off the bread, I think, so I'm not going to give it the bread anymore. Anyway, there we are. So, yes, 4 portions in a day is quite enough, says Miss Marple. I quite agree. It's not getting any more tonight, so, it doesn't get it at night. But anyway, there was a good article in the Telegraph today about Instagram influencers and Notting Hill. And the people who live there, especially in Lancaster Road, Notting Hill, or London's Portobello Road Market area, are getting sick of all these influencers taking photographs outside their houses because of Notting Hill, the film. So the colourful houses that were in that film, they're all painting them black or grey, just to stop them, because these people are literally peering in their windows and standing on their steps and getting changed. It gets stressful, says one resident. My family moved in about a month ago, and the previous owner painted it black just because they were fed up with how many people stop out front. It gets crazy. People on the steps and take loads of photos. On the weekends, there can be hundreds of them. It's not just Londoners, it's mainly tourists, but it gets stressful. I know my parents hate it. The hope with the black paint houses is less picturesque. They basically want to attract less attention. There we go. So that could have, yes, they're not impressed. I think Biscuitek gets it quite well. I think that's a good answer. Well said. They're not impressed. No, it's not correct that people go harassing people with photographs and turning up on their driveway and can I have a picture and all of that. I read today that Griff Rhys-Jones regularly gets stopped in the street because people think he's Hugh Grant. And, well, that was another story. There you go. And he gets photographed. People think it's not Griff. They're not interested in Griff Rhys-Jones. They want Hugh Grant. So poor old Griff Rhys-Jones is being a lookalike for Hugh Grant. There we go. I had it once myself. This Russian tourist stopped me and said, "You look like Hugh Grant." I don't look anything like Hugh Grant. Because they said, "Can we have a photo?" And I said, "Who are you?" This was many, this was before all this selfie thing. They just stopped me and I said, "What? Why?" And they said, "Oh, Hugh Grant." I was like, no, you've got the wrong person. Anyway, they wouldn't believe it, so I had a photo. I don't know where that photo ended up, but, stories with weird photos. When I was at university, we went on a trip to New York, and we went to what was his name? That mayor, the naughty mayor, the one that's gone bankrupt, Giuliani. We went to a reception for lunch at this governor's mansion or whatever it was called. And afterwards, we were meant to go and do a task. And I said to all these students, I said, no, we're not doing that. Well, I'm not doing that. I said, I don't want to do this task because we were meant to do it independently. I said, we're near the World Trade Center. Why don't we go to the World Trade Center? I said, and they said, well, no, we can't go there. It's very expensive because they're all students. And they're quite rich, a lot of these. We're at the London School of Economics. They're not poor people, but some of them probably were, but most of them were international. And I said, no. There were about 10 of us in this group that we were meant to be doing this task, which we never did. So I said, well, wait, we can go to this World Trade Center. They said, but if you go there, you have to pay $35, sorry, and to go to the top. I said, no, you don't. Pay $0. We go to the bar and we order a drink. And it'll probably cost $15 for a drink. So we get in the lift, boom, 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 and then there's another lift. Yeah, I think there were 2 lifts, if I remember. It's so long ago, but it was my last time ever in the World Trade Center, and I'd been a couple of times before, and with my mother and all the rest of it. But anyway, we get up there and we get to this bar, the windows on the world, and we sit down and we order a cocktail, and they're all going, yeah, this is great. And the people 1 floor up are paying $35 for their stupid viewing platform where they can look out. We're looking at exactly the same view, but we're just 1 floor down, basically. So it was lovely to sit there. We were having a nice time and chatting away. And along comes this Texan. And he's with a Chinese woman. He goes, oh, hello. He goes, we just got married. And I said, oh, right. And he said, could you do something for me? I don't know why he picked on me, but he chose me specifically. And he said, could you do something for me? He said, could all your friends join me in a picture with this lady? And I said, why? He said, don't ask why. He said, I'll pay for all your drinks all afternoon. We were students. I said, the answer is yes. So we posed in this fake photograph. We were the fake guests at a wedding, basically. He was obviously in a legal marriage. And I never got to see those pictures, but maybe one day they might emerge. But that was my last visit to the World Trade Center. So I was in a fake wedding photo. So there you go. That should go down in history. So yeah, he paid for all our drinks. We had many drinks, I will admit, because he was very, very much prepared to spend for the photos. And obviously there were a few more. There was a photographer as well. So of course it was very good. Right. Anyway, there we go. So that was that. So yes. Well, anyway, so moving along. You think the bird is going to be ill from everything that's been given? No. It's very happy. It's very, very happy. And I've looked at what the RSPCA has to say, and it's give it dog food and all things like that. So no, that's what they suggest. So the RSPCA have suggested what I give it. So I've done some research, and if it doesn't like something, it doesn't get any more of it. So that's the end of it. So anyway. Where was I when the Twin Towers collapsed? I do remember exactly. I was in the Carlton Club in St. James's having lunch with my surgeon friend, Sir Gerald Walsh-Waring, who was a lovely man. We sat and watched and drank cognac all afternoon, and then we were just horrified because I remembered the time of that wedding, for example. And I remember a lot of the bar staff because I went there a few times over the years. And I thought of the bar staff, and I thought of the servers and the people in the kitchen, because everybody in that restaurant, well, who was working there, they were there doing breakfast service, and, well, they had no chance. They couldn't have got out. And that is so sad to think of those people who were just ordinary people doing their jobs, and they went to work and they never left. So I do think of them. And I also think of the people in the basement, because I remember the basement very well, because there was a shopping mall in the basement. and God knows what happened to all of them when it all collapsed. But I suppose they probably had more chance of getting out because they would have been evacuated, hopefully. But no, it's just a terrible, terrible thing. I have a friend who was on the phone to people who were above where it hit. He worked for a company in London that was also had an office there, and he talked to people as they basically waited to die, and it affected him hugely. And he quit his job in the city after that because he didn't. It made him actually develop a stutter. In fact, he became quite ill, but it was very, very sad for what happened. But then there were all the people who lied and pretended they were involved in it. That was another part of the weird part of the story. Anyway, I wasn't planning on going into that, but yes, Fergie was meant to be there, yes, but she was delayed in her car, so she never got there. So Fergie got lucky that day, didn't she? She was saved, so there we are. Yes, well, all of you have many memories of the World Trade Center. Yes, Howard Lucknick was tipped off not to go in, says Cult Television. That's a conspiracy theory, if ever there were one. But Cult Television does like to have some theories about things, so I know that. You were in your small office in King's Lynn, and you had a small TV, and it was something. I don't know what, Matt Grant. The Trade Center was one of your first field trips as a child. I can't explain. Felt seeing it go down. I stayed up all night watching the news, says Lois. No, it was an absolute tragedy. It's an appalling thing and very, very sad. So very sad that, may all those poor people, may their souls, like the people on the Titanic, a disaster like that is something that doesn't happen very often. But that was an act of terrorism as opposed to the stupid Titanic, which was just an act of stupidity. But honestly, those poor people the ones who jumped out the window, I think I would rather jump out the window than burn to death, to be honest. The heat must have been appalling because of all the aviation fuel. So, and all this conspiracy theory, yeah, whatever. I'm not really buying into all that, so let's not go down that route. Yes. It was your day off, and your friend rang and told you to turn the TV on. I was traumatized. I was 18, says Mr. Lee Kicker. Well, I was probably, I would have been, oh gosh, was I 21 or something at that time? Yes, I just sat there in this Carlton club because I'd had lunch there, and it was about 3:00 in the afternoon or something, and we just sat there and watched the televisions, and the world stopped. It was the same with 7-Eleven. I couldn't. That day, everything stopped for me. Also, that day I'd been out to an appointment, and suddenly everything stopped in the streets, and everything became eerie. And I said to my friends, "Why don't we all get together?" And we all sat together and just were together. And one person we did know died on one of those buses. And the other day, I spoke with a lady who had been blown up on one of those buses or trains. I can't remember which. I was quite shocked by her story, but she found solace with horses in the end, and she was a good lady. I won't go into all of that now because I don't know the full details, but I would have to talk about it another time. But no, the 9/11 was a terrible, terrible thing. And the 7 thing was London. So it's a different thing. I think you got confused, Trevor. 7 was in London. 7th of September. So I think you've got the wrong one. Anyway, right. Okay, right. Okay, we'll move along on to the next topic. We've dealt with, we've dealt with Madeleine McCann. Yes, that can go. Something a bit more positive is Jeremy Clarkson. I think Jeremy Clarkson adds color and vibrancy to the world. There's been a good thing. We're going to get a quiz. You might get 2 quizzes if you're lucky. We're only at 1 hour here. So the Telegraph today has done a nice feature. Can Clarkson's farm save Britain's pubs? Couldn't get the mail today, so Madam wasn't very happy. That's her paper of choice. It had been sold out by the time I got there. Mr. Lee Kicker hates Clarkson. Well, I'm not surprised. But with your politics, I think that's exactly where I expect you to be. So you're not being unpredictable, are you, in your little comments? So there we are. Yes. So in well, I'm not going to. I can't give away the numbers because the numbers might appear in a quiz. But what's a village without its pub? Just a collection of houses, says Jeremy Clarkson. Pubs add to the world. In Broadstairs, where I used to live, the Magnet was the hub of the community. We loved the Magnet. Everybody loved the Magnet because the Magnet was a bit eccentric. You had the the regular pub goer, like my friend Max, who would go there and just have a pint of beer and sit in the corner. And he's coming to visit soon, so that'll be nice. And my friend Alan, who was from the East End of London originally and quite right wing, and a typical pub goer, and liked a beer and loved a gin and tonic and loved a chat, and we'd always have differing views, and we'd have a nice conversation. Then you'd have the village busybody who would be there. I won't embarrass her because she was a bit annoying at times, but she could be quite pleasant when she wanted to be. But anyway, I won't go into her detail. Then there was the couple I called Grim and Grimmer. They wore matching anoraks, and they liked cruise holidays, and they only drank wine that started at £10 a bottle. Yes. But they did drink beer in the pub, but they wanted to know everything about everybody. Then we had the woman that thought, the it that thought it was a dragon. So pubs are, a milieu of everything in society, and that's the joy of a pub because you get a bit of everything. You get this man who was a traveller and he's covered in tattoos, and he was really nice, liked him. And you got this man from Liverpool who does things for the lifeboats, and a lovely lady called Jenny who was very enthusiastic about the lifeboats. Absolutely delightful lady. A mixture of people. A man who played the piano because he loved playing the 500 miles, and he ran marathons and raised lots of money for charities, called Graham, and he won awards on the BBC for his fundraising. So you get a mixture in a pub. But as it's pointed out in this article, pubs are dying at a huge rate. Supermarkets are killing them because everybody drinks at home. Nobody wants to drink and drive. So in rural areas, they're total disaster. The energy bills are a total disaster. Anyway, Clarkson has been running this little campaign, and he did a great thing with the farmers' campaign. Whether Mr. Lee Kicker likes it or not, I think Clarkson has been a good person for pubs. So we must save the British pub. I went to the lunch yesterday with these Dutch people at their very beautiful home, And they said, we have, the red light district in Amsterdam, and you have pubs. He said, it's a great shame all your pubs are closing down. Not that he went to the red light district. He was a respectable family man, but he said, we have cannabis and we have this and you have pubs. And he loves going to pubs when he comes to England, and he stays in Knightsbridge, and they're very smart people, and they like pubs in England. So we must save the pub because too many pubs are closing down. It's a terrible thing. So there we are. Okay. What do I think about Wetherspoon's pubs? I don't like Wetherspoon's because I don't like Tim Martin. I have met Tim Martin. I've had lunch with Tim Martin. He's a very opinionated, stupid man. He's a very successful businessman, but he's just not my kind of person. He doesn't like dogs. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like social media. He doesn't like ban everything. And he's got those stupid carpets. He's obsessed with his silly carpets. And his pubs are full of, not my kind of products. I don't like the products. I don't like I wouldn't have a gin and tonic in his pub, for example. If you're in a railway station, it's perfectly all right to go to a Wetherspoon's, but I don't see any. The one that was in Ramsgate was the biggest of his whole collection. Well, it could have been a beautiful venue, and he put that disgusting carpet all over the place, and every pub has to have a unique carpet. He's totally mad. I don't like the man. That's the problem with him. And, great friend of Boris Johnson. Anyone who's a friend of Boris Johnson is no friend of mine. So he can bog off. It's a bit like this Sarah Vine banging on about how the Cameroons, as she calls them, the Cameroons ghosted her. Oh dear, what a shame. It's a bit like Meghan. And Meghan and her twerking. What was that all about? There's another piece of... I'm sorry about this lighting. It goes up and down, doesn't it? I've no idea why. Right. Yes. If I could take over the thing in Ramsgate, it could be turned into a beautiful place, but I don't think Ramsgate's the place to do it, to be honest. The building is too big, so he's welcome to it. But... Right. Yes, the video of Meghan made you throw up. Supposedly the surrogate was in another room, so it's all a load of nonsense. And as Camilla Tominey, who is not someone I like, from the Telegraph said, he looked like he was trying to be Peter Crouch, dancing around, doing his little silly dance in his hoodie. Seriously, he's meant to be a member of the royal family. He should man up, grow up, and show up. He should learn his obligations. And as the courts have rightly said, he should pay his legal bill that he owes for the taxpayer for all that wasted court time. How dare he do this to our country? What a shameful little rat that Prince Harry is. He is a total leech on humanity. How dare he do this, suing our country? Well done to the judge for awarding costs against him, and he will have to pay 90% of the costs. Good. Bankrupt the little bastard. That might teach the little ginger nut a lesson. It's about time him and that Megain were told to stop. And nobody wants her stupid spread. It's not about her. I can't do it anymore. No, it's because nobody actually wants your stupid slime, as it's been referred to by many people who've tried it. Nobody wants your slime anymore. Slimy Meghan, raspberry jam. Ugh. I'd rather eat vomit. So, I don't think Minnie Thatcher would want any of it. So we're not going to be buying any of, what was it called? American Riviera, but you couldn't call it that anymore. So whatever it is called now, or whatever it was called, Montecito mush. That's what it may as well be called. Absolute load of old rubbish. So Ginger Nut should pay his bill. We, the British taxpayer, should not pay for you. because you are a private citizen. You went away to seek privacy. So bog off and shove your privacy up your ass, because that's where it belongs. Thank you. That's all I have to say on him. I don't want to talk about him anymore because he's gross and he's grim and he's a grifter, and she's even worse. Anyway, I will be speaking with Samantha again because she can't stand her sister, and she's quite right. So there we are. Right. Okay. Next topic. Oh, the mushroom woman. Let's get on to the mushroom woman. Where have I put her? Oh no, I've thrown the piece of paper away. Just a minute. I need to talk about the mushroom woman. Oh yes, here we are. No, wrong page. I need the other page. This is the problem of having everything on paper. Yes, mushroom woman, the murderer in Australia. What do you think of her? The beef Wellington killer. Erin Patterson, spiking her family's meal with lethal death cap mushrooms. She has definitely got something very wrong with her, that nasty little woman. There we are. I do apologize about the noise in the background, but I can't do anything about it. So there we are. She knew what she was doing. She loved to be. She never had any more stock. Well, her own children were given part of it as well, and they were sufferers. I do apologize if there's any noise in the background. I do. You probably won't hear it, but you know, her 9-year-old daughter and her 14-year-old son had eaten the leftovers of the beef Wellington the following day. So she claimed that she'd removed the mushrooms from the dish, but doctors were worried the toxins may have also contaminated the meat. She just thought she would add these things because it was a little bland. She seems to change her story with the wind, doesn't she? She's a very windy, windy person, but she's got a look of evil in her eyes. There's something not nice about this woman. And how she lied to them about cancer, that's not a nice thing to do. You know, she was planning to have a gastric bypass surgery, and she wanted people to look after her children. Well, but her estranged husband, Simon, he was the one that got lucky. He turned down the invitation to the lunch. But his poor parents were killed after eating the meal. Her current husband fell seriously ill, but later recovered. Well, the trial continues. I think we know where that trial's going. I don't think she'll be getting away with that one. Another Lucy Letby type woman. So evil. Yeah. Stick the Wellington up your jumper. Next time you're offered beef Wellington, be careful because you never know. So just make sure you know about where the mushrooms came from. So yes, Wits End, your question is correct, but a marquis, not a lord, a French one. Anyway, we won't go into that. You'd like some quiz, right? Okay. Well, I think we've done enough of all of this. Yes. So you can have a quiz. Yes. If you'd like a quiz, we can begin with a quiz. Right. Okay. Well, let me just move all my bits of paper. And there we go. We will carry on. Anyway, I'm Sorry, I'm being distracted by something else, but I'm sorry. Oh, well. Anyway, we'll begin with our quiz. That will get me off the situation that's going on behind me. Right. Okay. Right. Let's have a quiz. Okay. Right. Now, this is a quiz. That I think you haven't done before. Yes. Right. Okay. In which year did Agatha Christie die at the age of 85? Which year did she die? Agatha Christie. It wasn't 1965 or 32, 82. It wasn't 87. It wasn't 1988. 1998. It wasn't 1975. No. No. Ron M gets it. Ron M is the winner. Well done, Ron M. 1 point to Ron M. It was 1976. Okay. What is the nickname of His Majesty's Prison, Wakefield? Precious Metal gets it. You want one without dates? Well, I've just given you one without dates, so there you go. So please don't complain. Okay, thank you. We don't do complaints. If you are the complainer, you are the weakest link, and we have to say goodbye. If you don't like the quiz, you do have the right not to participate. But look, we love having you all join in, so please carry on joining in. But as my friend Annie Robinson would say, you are the weakest link. Goodbye if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to join in. So please don't complain about my questions. My questions are my questions. And if you don't like them, you don't have to answer them. So, okay, I will admit that some of my questions can be a bit obscure. And if you do find them a bit obscure, well, we'll see what happens. We'll maybe have to change some of the questions for the future. But I think most of my questions are pretty mainstream. It's just, you just got to have a bit of a brain to answer them. So if you haven't got a brain, put it back in the box. Okay, thank you. Right, no more complaints. Thank you very much. Complainers, clear off. Okay, thank you. Right, next question. Who is the author of Meeting Churchill, A Life in 90 Encounters? Who is the author of Meeting Churchill, A Life in 90 Encounters? Yes, stick it up your jumper, precisely. It's not J.R. Hartley. No, it's not that. No. It's not Boris Johnson. He also wrote books about Bond, James Bond, and Bletchley Park. It's not William Hague. It's not Ozzy Osbourne. It's not Barbara Cartland. I think she only wrote Bonkbusters. She was completely nuts and a great friend of Neil and Christine Hamilton. They even used to have her to stay at the old rectory in Never Alderley in Cheshire. It's not Piers Morgan. It's not Claire Mandel. Oh, God. Claire Mandel could only write a book on how to bring a quarter of a bottle of wine to a party. That's how bad she is. She's one of the worst on the planet. Awful, awful woman. Awful. The bog brush. The upturned bog brush. Right. Okay. It wasn't Fergie. It wasn't Charles Spencer. No, it wasn't Michael Portillo. No. The book is called Meeting Churchill, A Life in 90 Encounters. It was not Jilly Cooper. Oh, come on, your silly answer. It wasn't Michael Barrymore. Oh, for goodness sake. It wasn't Stephen Mong. I don't know who Stephen Mong even is. Tony Robinson. It wasn't Hitler. No, it wasn't Mrs. Churchill. Right, okay. 0 points awarded. Failure. You are the weakest links. Goodbye. Of course, it was Sinclair Mackay, a very good author, but you didn't know that. Okay, now you won't be able to answer this one either if on this basis. Who was the first Australian to become a duchess? What was the name of the first Australian to become a duchess? It wasn't Sinclair Mackay, no, because he's a man, so he couldn't become a duchess, could he? It wasn't Kylie, no. I mean, I love Kylie, and Kylie is the the pint-sized pop star, and her parents are lovely, lovely, lovely people. It wasn't Dame Edna Everage, no, because she wasn't a duchess. She was a dame, but she wasn't a dame really. She was just a character. It wasn't Mr. Kangaroo, and it certainly wasn't Amanda Patel, who is a vile, horrible woman, and I've spent time with her. She's disgusting. I can't stand Amanda Patel. Awful, awful woman who worked for William Hague for a while. It wasn't Harold Bishop, and it wasn't Janet Evans. No, she was busy watering down the drinks. It wasn't Nellie Melba, but you're close with the word Nell-E. You're close, but you're far off. It wasn't Matilda. It wasn't Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. It wasn't the Duchess of Kent. It wasn't the Mushroom Lady. No, she's not. She wasn't a duchess. No, it wasn't Rolf Harris because he's a man. He couldn't have been a duchess. He couldn't have been a duke, given what he did. It was definitely Rolf Harris. Well, it definitely was not Rolf Harris. He can be blamed for many other things. So we'll agree there. Okay, right. It wasn't Croc Doc. No, it wasn't him. It wasn't the Crocodile Man. He didn't last long, though, did he? It wasn't Kylie. No. Okay. Right. I think at this rate, we're going to have to give a null point again. No. Right. You failed, all of you. Absolutely useless. Totally, you are the weakest links. You're appalling on this quiz. Nell Steed. Of course, Nell Steed married the Duke of Manchester after meeting him in a swimming pool in Ceylon. That she swore like a trooper. She was the dissolute duchess. They married on the 5th of May, 1927. They'd only met one another 36 hours earlier. So there we go. Absolutely useless, the whole lot of you. She became the Duchess of Manchester. There we go. It's a very well-known story. I'm very, very shocked that you don't know it. It's very, very appalling. Your general knowledge is weak and appalling tonight. There are 177 of you here, and if one out of 177 doesn't know the answer to that, well, you should all go home. Absolutely, get the coach out of here. Get on the bus. Out you go. Bye-bye. Right. Okay. I think Minnie Thatcher might even have known the answer to that, even though the bird is hated so much by the German. But there we go. Okay, now this is a very easy question. If you can't get this, then you really are stupid. In which year, starring Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, I'm sure many of you know who they are, did The Rock premiere? The Rock, about Alcatraz. And of course, I once spent a night on Alcatraz. I went to an all-night party on Alcatraz. Donald Trump wants to turn it back into a prison. I went to an all-night party there, so I'm one of the few who spent a night in Alcatraz. I've got a great photograph of myself in this one of the cells. I had to wear one of these things to keep myself warm because it was very cold. Because in the middle of the bloody sea, it's a very horrible place to spend the night. But we had a good party and we did. Right. Okay. Right. The answer. Have we got it? Right. Okay. Meanwhile, we've got loads of people answering the question. But the first one to answer correctly is Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves gets the point. It is, of course, 1996. So, yeah. So, Alcatraz is a great place to visit. Well, it's a great place to visit. The early evening part of the party was fun, but by the morning I was ready to leave. I'd had enough of it by then. But it was a big party for a film thing I went to, and I spent a night in Alcatraz. So and I was with all sorts of characters. It was great fun actually. There was plenty of alcohol and plenty of food, and there was blankets and all the rest of it, but. The wind, you wouldn't want, the wind was very bad there. It was because in the middle of the bay, and the bay is a very tough area. That's why nobody escaped. That was an interesting thing to go there. In which country is... No, this is a very simple question. If you can't answer this one, you're really stupid. Is Portofino located? And I once did a car rally from London to Portofino myself. Which country? Lois Petzold gets it first with Italy. Of course, it's in Italy. Portofino is a lovely, lovely place. And my friends used to have a hotel there, the Hotel Splendido. And of course, they owned the Orient Express. But we drove from London to Portofino. And we stayed there. And there's a lovely restaurant on the waterfront. And well, a kind of nightclub, and we went there as well, and that was a fantastic place. So, not in the actual village, but outside it. But and I've got tales of murder from there, and all sorts of intrigue I could give you on another occasion. So, I know a lot about what went on in Portofino with a particular murder case. So I'll save that for another day. Okay, a very fascinating story, because the body eventually surfaced elsewhere. So, very interesting. A very, very famous case. Okay. Where did the UK's first wall of death? And do you know what a wall of death is? It's a thing where you ride around and around and around and around and around like this, and then your motorbike cycle gets worse and worse. And we used to have a man who worked for us as a decorator at a house in London. And he used to ride the Wall of Death, so I nicknamed him the Wall of Death. The last time I saw him, we took him to a game of polo in with the Duke of Edinburgh, of all people. Well, not the Duke. The Duke of Edinburgh just happened to be there. Well, he was there, more importantly, with my friend Brian Stein, who sadly died also. So in Windsor Great Park. So yeah, the Wall of Death lived near there, and we met up, and he was an amazing man, my Wall of Death friend. So I'm going to ask you, where did the UK's first Wall of Death open in June 1929? Where did it first open? Miss Marple, you can have the point because you say Southend. It was in a place called Kersal in Southend. So yeah, Miss Marple, you can have the point. I think I'm more specific, but obviously it was also home to an 80-ton stuffed whale, Al Capone's car. Kersal is German for cute hall or something like yes, Kurt Hall. Yes. Right. Okay. With what is the Daily Mail's Jim Crack associated? What is the column in the Daily Mail Jim Crack about? Miss Marple says racing. Steve says horse. Right. Well, it is horse racing, so I can accept Miss Marple, I suppose. Because racing, I can accept. Okay, racing. Most people say racing. We're going racing. Okay, I'll accept your answer, but next time, be more specific. I don't think we should have. I think I must be more strict with my answers. Right, he's a horse racing tipster. Of course, he doesn't exist. Jim Crack is not a real person. It was an invented name. Okay, if someone were woozled or tanked, what would they be? Woozled or tanked? Biscuitex says drunk. Okay, I'll accept that. Biscuitec can have the point. And thank you very much, Biscuitec, for your email about sending me some books. That's very kind of you. I haven't had a chance to reply because my computer is blown up and my telephone's useless, but I will respond. I'll work out a way. But my telephone is totally useless. But I will. It's very, very kind of you to offer to send me some books. That's very, very generous because I need to have some actual real reading. I miss books. So there we are. And you can't really get books here because they're all in French. All I read is newspapers. But anyway, that's very, very kind. So the answer, of course, the next is you'd be worse for wear from drink. Of course, the word was coined by P.G. Wodehouse. And, you know, I have a lovely Scottish friend or a family friend. And when people are drunk, she tends to look at them and she goes, "Okay, I think you look a bit over-refreshed." And I think that's a nice way of saying, you know, to someone, perhaps you should stop the drink. So it's better than saying you are pissed, you're tanked up, and you're over the gallon and all the rest of it. There's plenty of ways of saying to someone, "You are drunk, madam," which is what can be said. But you know, if you said you're over refreshed, it's a kind of nicer way of saying it, isn't it? So there we go. Yes. It sounds like you're in prison. Oh, well. Anne of Cleavers, you may have a point. There we go. You've got a pub in your back garden. It's called the Stagger Inn, Wits End. That's a nice name for a pub, the Stagger Inn. Yes, there's plenty of good names for things in the world. So we come to a question about a good name. Okay, where in the UK is Titty Hill situated? Where would you find Titty Hill? You know, we like a funny name. It's not in Scotland. It's not in Devon. It's not in Dorset. It's not in Lancashire. It's not in Nippleshire. It's not in Essex. It's not in Cornwall or Soho, Warwickshire, or Essex. It's not in Dorset. It's in Miss Marple gets the point because it's in Sussex, but you were not specific. You should have said West Sussex, but tonight I'll allow you the point. And I believe it is next to Fanny Hill. There we go. Yes, as one of you have pointed out. Okay, could be. Probably isn't. Okay, with which sport is Jack Draper associated? Jack Draper. It's not rugby. No. No, not football. Ross gets the point. Ross, a new entrant. Well done, Ross. It is tennis. He played at Wimbledon, etc., etc. Okay, what type of plant, what genus of plant is a Weigela? Weigela, a Weigela. No. Lois gets the point, so second point for Lois. It's a shrub. She said flowering shrub. It does flower, so you're correct there. It's a colorful foliage. It's a pollinator. It has a peel. It's abundant blooms. It sounds like just the thing everybody needs in their garden. Everybody needs a bit of Weigela. It's not Higella. It's not Nigella. It's Weigela. Okay, I think everybody needs a Weigela in their garden. Sadly, there isn't one here. Okay. In which year did Greta Garbo appear in the best winning picture ensemble, Grand Hotel, alongside Joan Crawford, Lionel Barrymore, and Wallace Berry, and John Barrymore? Right. The first of you to answer the question correctly, because so many of you have answered, is none of you at the moment. Right. No correct answers as of date. Miss Marple gets the point, which takes Miss Marple firmly into the lead with 4 points. It was 1932. Okay, who directed the 2018 film Another Simple Favor, who directed it. Blake Lively, Anna Kendrick. They were sniping supposed besties. That's how it was described as, who directed that film. It wasn't Hitchcock. It was in 2018. 2018, not now. My Slice of Gardening, you are the winner. My Slice of Gardening, you're a new one. My Slice of G, to abbreviate you. It's Paul Feig. Yes, it's Paul Feig. Okay, what does the Dutch word slagroom mean? The Dutch word slagroom in English. It does not mean cheese, no. It doesn't mean bedroom or toilet, which is a disgusting word that no one should ever use. It's not a coal hole. It's not a brothel. It's not thatcher. It's not furniture. It's not move over. It's not smoking area. No. Slag room. My Slice of Gardening gets a second point. It is whipped cream. It means whipped cream. Slag room is whipped cream. Okay, what do Americans refer to trainers as? An American, what would they call trainers? Lois gets the point, so a third point for Lois, taking you well into second place. Of course, it's sneakers. Okay, does Giles Brandreth drink alcohol? The lovely Giles Brandreth, the expert on words and all sorts of other things. Mr. Lee Kicker gets the point. Mr. Lee Kicker, a point for you. Right, okay. It is no. Of course, he doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't eat meat. He doesn't eat fish. So I'm not sure what he actually does. But he seems to like cakes. He's always eating cakes. From whenever I've encountered him, he likes cakes. I don't know what else he likes, but he likes cakes. Anyway, in Cockney rhyming slang, what is loop the loop? What is loop the loop? It's not poop. The first person to get the answer correct, who gets a 5th point, taking you back well into the lead, is soup. Loop the loop in Cockney rhyming slang is soup, of course. And I need both answers, and I need them both correct, and I want them both at the same time. I don't want one or the other. I want both answers. What are the Christian names of the 2 children of Dennis and Margaret Thatcher? What are the Christian names of both children of Dennis and Margaret Thatcher? It is not Anthea Turner. Ross gets the point. 2 points to Ross. It is obviously Mark. I mean, you've got 2 points. I'm not saying you're getting 2 points. It is Carol and Sir Mark Thatcher. They were twins, born in 1953, delivered prematurely by caesarean section. So our winner on this occasion, so put a tick through it now because I'll get rid of it, is Miss Marple. So that's that quiz. Right, you've had that quiz. So that quiz is over. And we've got 1 hour and 42 minutes. We can quickly fit in one more quiz, and then I'm going to sleep. I've been going for nearly 2 hours. So, and we've been interrupted by a German who hates our Seagull. So, right. Well, we've now got a quiz in a book because I got hold of a book. And I can now keep the book because it's all getting rather confusing with the bits of paper because they're getting all mixed up on the study table. So, right, okay. This is my next quiz we will give you. Right, are we ready for another quiz? Right, we start again. Thankfully, this is the last of the wine in the house. So then after that, it's time to go to bed. And there'll be no wine in the morning, which is good. So The house will be safe. It's time to go to sleep. Right. Okay. At which speed did Queen Victoria insist her royal train must never exceed in miles per hour? Wanted in miles per hour. Which speed? It wasn't 10. It wasn't 90. It wasn't 15. It wasn't 20. It wasn't 18. It wasn't 30. It wasn't 60. It wasn't. Oh, no, 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 no. It wasn't 80. It wasn't 25. It wasn't 30. It wasn't. Loads of you answering, but who's the snitch? Well, you got it. Who's the snitch? That's a new one. A new entrant, who's the snitch, gets the point. The answer is 40 miles an hour. And of course, she was the first monarch in the world to board a train. She made her final journey on a train in 1842 from Slough to Paddington for her funeral. The locomotive headlamp was draped in a purple veil, as if, they say, the machine itself was in mourning. So there we go. She was very specific. Okay, which train operator was nicknamed God's Wonderful Railway? Which operator of trains has the nickname God's Wonderful Railway? Between 1833 and 1947, they operated and they were resurrected in 2015. God's Wonderful Railway. Which railway am I talking about? And the first person to answer was Miss Marple. Of course, it was the Great Western Railway, GWR, God's Wonderful Railway. That's what they were nicknamed. So anyway, Miss Marple, well done. There you go. Okay. In which year was Paris Saint-Germain Football Club, PSG, formed? When did they form Paris Saint-Germain Football Club? It was a merger of Paris FC and Stade Saint-Germain. Paris FC soon walked out on the deal, however. But which year did it happen in? No. Audrey gets the point. Well done, Audrey. It was 1970. 1 point to Audrey. So, right. Question number 4. Who wrote the instant bestseller, The Autobiography of Alice and Toklas, in 1933? Who was the author of this? The Autobiography of Alice and Toklas. Lois gets the point. Lois Petzold. It was Gertrude Stein. Lois Petzold. Gertrude Stein was a very strange left bank woman in Paris. She was very close to Matisse, Picasso, Hemingway. She told lots of half-truths and she made up lots of things, and embellishments were in her works. She was a Jewish lesbian. She was very involved in Vichy France. People called her pretentious because she probably was. And she was very, very bizarre. I read a very interesting article about her in the Financial Times, and I'd never heard of her before, but what a strange woman. Anyway, she was up there with Patricia Highsmith, the woman who wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley, who used to wander around with her snails in a handbag. There were obviously a lot of these strange lesbians around of this era, so in that part of the world, so at that particular time. So there we go. Okay, in which year was BBC executive Alan Yentob, who recently died, born? What year was he born? A and B gets the point, 1947. And of the previous question, one of you just said they were the best kind of lesbians. Oh, yes, it was the best era to be a lesbian because they were all a bit wacky. And there's some amazing stories of the one I know who was I obviously didn't know it because I wasn't around then, but a racing driver in Chelsea who was completely mad. And anyway, that's the story for another day. But he was an exceptionally talented TV man, and he achieved a lot, did Mr. Yentob. So yeah, okay, a very simple question. If you can't get this, you really are the weakest link. In which part of California, north or south, so you have two options, is Sonoma County located? Joyce Grove gets the point. Well done, Joyce. Of course, it's northern California. Sonoma, of course, is very big in wine. It's a wonderful place to go to for wine. What did Doge, D-O-G-E, associated with Elon Musk, stand for? Now he's quit. What did Doge stand for? It wasn't Bitcoin. Liberty Caps gets it. Liberty Caps, of course, it was the Department of Government Efficiency. Liberty Caps, a point for you. We've got everybody on 1 point who's coming in. No failures so far. You are not the weakest link quite yet, all of you. Okay. Who is the longest serving female prisoner in California as of 2025, given her involvement, I'm giving you a hint, in the murder of Sharon Tate? And I need her full name. On this occasion, I'm not going to allow, it has to be the full name. No. You've got the wrong name. Charles Manson is dead. Keeley gets it as Patricia Krenwinkel. Keeley is the winner of the point. So well done, Keeley. 1 point to Keeley. Of course, Patricia Krenwinkel was convicted in 1971. Originally sentenced to death. She's been paroled 16 times, which has been before the parole board 16 times. And yes, she was convicted alongside 6 others. I had a friend who actually was meant to be at that dinner party. He's since died, but he was the luckiest man alive because he chose not to go. Otherwise, he would have been dead. And what those Manson people did was absolutely disgusting. But there's a lot of monsters in the world, It's very, very sad. But, poor Sharon Tate was actually pregnant. And, what a horrible thing that happened to her. A great talent lost to the world. She could have added a lot to the world, and so could have her child. So horrible Patricia Krenwinkel, who laughs at the justice system still. Not a nice woman. And I talk about injustice all the time. People who should be kept in prison, she's one of them. May she rot in hell. Awful woman. Anyway, as of 2025, approximately how many people visit the Lake District National Park annually? Each year, how many people visit? It's not 3 million, but Anna Cleavers gets the point. It's 18 million. You're very quick. You obviously didn't have time to go on Google. Some of you, I know some of you have fastest finger forward, and some of you have Google. We've had that in the argument in the past, but that was a definite immediate answer. So thank you. 18 million. 18 million is rather too many, I would say. The place needs a few less, but it's good for the economy in some ways, but they do make rather a mess. Okay, how much did one Mr. Kenneth Dagnew win in a 1937 competition for coming up with the name of the food product Spam? How much did he win in dollars? How many dollars? He didn't win 4 million. He didn't win £500. How many dollars did he win? It wasn't £10. It wasn't 5 million. It wasn't 900. Trevor gets it. Trevor, 100. He got $100 for a product that is huge. So he didn't really do that well, did he? It's like spiced ham, like cheap cat food. According to the travel writer Paul Theroux, there we go. Tom Parker Bowles just did an article on it the other day, so that was what reminded me. And I had read something else about spam elsewhere because of the VE Day celebrations, so it came up again then. In which year did Italy, now this is a very simple question, abolish its monarchy and become a republic? No. Ron M gets the point. Well done to Ron M. It was 1946. Ron M. 1 point to you. Question 12. With what is a Rosemary Schrager primarily associated? Rosemary Schrager. Miss Marple, you can have the point. Cooking, yes, she's a TV chef, but I will accept cooking. She's a cook. Ladette to a lady, which she did with obviously my friend Liz Brewer, the lovely fizzy Lizzie. Boating with Richard Madeley. She even went on a boat program with Richard Madeley. Now, that's not something I would celebrate. I would certainly not want to be on a boat with Richard Madeley because I'd definitely push him overboard. He might be able to swim, or he might, his permatam might get washed away. You never know. So there we are. Anyway, how many women as of 2025 are there in British prisons on whole life orders, i.e. they will die in jail? What is the number? Camel Toe gets the point. New entrant. Camel Toe. I'll just call you Camel because there won't be any other camels. Camel Toe. Okay. There's 4 people and the 4 people are, just a minute. Joanna Dennehy. She stabbed 3 people to death and she tried to kill 2 others. She's a total maniac. She's been a total lunatic in prison. Rose West, who killed at least 10. Myra Hindley, who killed at least 5. And then we've got Lucy Letby, who definitely murdered 7 and probably attempted to murder another 7 and probably killed many more also. And those 4 women should rot in hell. Let them rot. Evil, evil people. Okay, now we come to a wonderful person who I absolutely adore because she's doing a great thing by encouraging people to read. What is the name of the reading champion, Queen Camilla's reading charity? What is the name of the charity? Which has 200,000 members on its online book club. It promotes literature and improving literacy, which I think is a fabulous, fabulous thing. What is the name of the charity? It's not Bedtime Story, no. It's not Get to Read. It's not Benson and Hedges, but she does love a cigarette, yes. It's Reading Room. My Slice of Gardening gets the point. Right, My Slice of G. I think you can be, that'll do because there's nobody else with that name. Of course, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that the Queen is doing to help improve the nation's ability to read. And she's been doing all sorts of wonderful things with books. And I think it's a great thing because we must read more. And I'm missing books. You know, I'm used to being in a house full of books, and I don't have that right now. And books are so important, and you know, it's a pleasure. And just if you have 5 minutes where you just take a break and read a book, it makes your mind go. Doesn't matter. Just give some takeaway. It doesn't matter what kind of book it is, as long as you know it's not rubbish. You get pleasure. And where at the house I went to yesterday, packed full of books, and I saw one book and I felt like saying, could I borrow it? But people don't like lending out books because they never get them back. That's how I see it. And my father certainly wouldn't lend out books because he's very protective of his library. And my father's library is rather huge, so he's very into books. But books, they bring great joy. It's far better than looking at a computer screen. And, newspapers are all very well, but a book, once you get into it, you get into the story and the pleasure. Anyway, enough about me and my view on books. But the Queen Camilla, wonderful what she's doing with literacy. It's helping the world. 200,000 people subscribe to the book club, and I think that's a wonderful thing she's created. It was an idea of her own. She really adds to the world. What a wonderful, wonderful lady. Thank you to her. And next question. Right. Who is credited with inventing roller skates in 1759? What was the name of the inventor of the roller skate? And as you can hear, the stupid seagulls are going mad outside. I'm sure the German lady, Marguerite, is not going to be happy, but it's nothing to do with our little seagull. Anyway, she shouldn't be attacking it. And if she tries to throw it in the sea, I'll be very cross with her because we don't want it dead because we've looked after it. I'm not going to tell her that we're feeding it because she'll go mad. She'll probably report us. Anyway. Right. Anyway, my slice of gardening. No. Yes, you get the point. No, it wasn't Cliff Richard. No, my slice of gardening gets the point. Yes, of course, it was John Joseph Merlin, who lived from 1735 to 1803. He also made musical instruments, wheelchairs, a tea table that enabled a lady to fill a dozen teacups without using her hands. He had Merlin's Mechanical Museum in London, but the roller skate was actually patented in Paris subsequently in 1819 by someone called Mr. Pettibel, whoever he was. No one seems to know much about him, but he had 3 wheels on his little roller skates. So there we are. Okay, and on a similar type of question, what is a lazy Susan? If you had a lazy Susan, what would it be? I'm sorry about the background noise. The naughty birds are obviously having some kind of row. No, it's not a chair. It's not a drink. TMTB, you get the point. Well done. It's a tray that spins. A lazy Susan, of course, is a table that's on the middle of your circular table and it goes round and round so you can share the food. So it saves you having to have a waitress. So the lazy Susan was described in 1917 in the Vanity Fair as the cleverest waitress in the world. So there you go. You could have a lazy Susan. You didn't need to have Susan. You could just have lazy Susan. And if Lady Susan happened to be present, she could meet Lazy Susan. There you are. Right. Okay. Coming up. With which sport is Jadon Sancho associated? Which sport is Jadon Sancho associated? Anne of Cleves gets a second point. So now we have several of you on 2 points. We don't have any leader. Oh dear. Of course it is football. He was a Manchester United player who was loaned to Chelsea, and now he's back to Manchester United this month. He was born in Camberwell. There we go. And he's a very expensive loan because they've got to pay $5 million for the loan. I haven't written that down in my notes, but That's what I was reading about. Okay, and now, in which year did Colin Firth appear as Mr. Darcy in an adaptation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice? It wasn't 1995. No. You're close, but you're not correct. Joyce Grove gets a point. So now another one or 2 points. Oh dear, we're getting into trouble here. Right, we're going to have to be careful with the next one. Right, the final question. Okay, whose 2007 novella On Chesil Beach, which I did watch, was adapted into a film in 2017? Who was the adaptation? Biscuitec gets the point. Oh dear, which is not a good thing, because though it's very well done to Biscuitec, now we need another question. And we can only have, right, Miss Marple, Joyce Grove, Anne of Cleves, and My Slice of G. Right, I need another question, a random question, because unfortunately, well, I do have I have a newspaper in front of me. Let me see if I can think of a question. Right. I need to think of another question. Right, this paper is not of much use. Okay, let's have a look at another bit of paper. I've got to think of a final question. I should probably have a list of backup questions. Okay. Well, we spoke of her earlier. What is the name of the lady accused of spiking family members' meals with lethal death cap mushrooms in Australia? Who is the first to get it? You don't know her name. Right. My Slice of Gardening gets the point. So My Slice of Gardening is our winner. Erin Patterson is her name. So well done. So our winner tonight is Erin Patterson. I will write this in the book so I don't do this quiz again, because we don't want to be having repeats, do we? So I've got for you tomorrow. I have one ready, but I'm on to my second. But thank you very much for participating. It's been absolutely wonderful on that front. Right, these birds are going completely bonkers. God knows what's going on. And well done to My Slice of Gardening. I think that's a nice name. I don't know. Are you very into gardening, or are you just take a slice of garden, or what do you do? I don't know. It's a curious name. So there we are. If you have any more questions, we can have a few more questions for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to bed. So I can't do anything about the seagull because, quite frankly, this woman will no doubt go mad. Yes. Do I know about Epsom? Unfortunately not. I don't get to see any of my horse racing anymore because my Ladbrokes account is not accessible because I don't have a VPN that works. I've tried making it work and I don't know how to make it work because I'm totally useless. And I don't have my computer anyway, and it was all on that computer. So when I get a new computer. Have I met Bill Gates? Yes, I've met Bill Gates, of course. And Bill Gates is a wonderful man, and I like him very much. I know most people hate him and the passion, but he's a lovely man, and he's been very generous and kind, and he's a good person. And I get on with him, and I think he's fabulous. What he's done for the world, for Africa. He's a kind-hearted, decent man, and he helps other people, and that's what we need in the world. And we need more people like Bill Gates and less people like Donald Trump. Let's be honest. I think that's the type of American we must have. It's more Bill Gates, less Donald Trump. We definitely need less Bidens as well, and we definitely need less, others. But the Trumps, they're the most greedy, grasping, gross family, awful people. So I don't like them. No. Yeah. So, right. Any more questions? Have I met Jason Donovan? No, I've never met him, but I knew someone who had an affair with him, but I'm not going to go into that on this occasion because it's probably libelous. But they didn't know him as Jason Donovan, put it that way. But they also had an affair with Elton John, and they didn't know who he was. So there we are. Allegedly. So I'll leave that as an alleged. But anyway, have I met Lord Ashcroft? No, I've never actually met Lord Ashcroft, but he has a great medal collection of those wonderful, great medals. So he's a very interesting man. He writes very interesting books, and they do call him Lord Ashcroft of Belize, but Philip Schofield, well, consigned to the dustbin where he belongs. An absolute creep. Very rude man also. Very rude and very pushy. Pushed past somebody. I'm not going to say who, but I think I have said who on many other occasions. But yeah, he's a pushy little man who should stop jumping queues as well. He jumped a queue with my mum, in fact, and he jumped a queue for the Queen's funeral. So, for watching, what a creep. Have I ever met Charles Spencer? No, I've never met Charles Spencer. My friends tell me he's a very pleasant man, but I don't know him. Never met him. Have I ever been to Buckinghamshire? Yes, many times. I like Buckinghamshire. Lots of nice places there. Lovely. Midsummer Murders country, in fact. So, yes. Am I watching the soap awards? No, I can't watch. I don't watch television because I don't have any VPN, so I can't watch TV. But I don't miss television. I love listening to Radio 4, and that's all I ever do now. I have my music, my Spotify, but I love Radio 4. I love The Archers, and I love Radio 4 Today. And when I go to bed, I love the shipping forecasts. I love all these things. It's wonderful. Spiders, Flies, and Philip Schofield. Yeah, he's definitely up there. But I don't insult Ross. I say don't insult the spiders and the flies. Philip Schofield is in a category of his own, revolting and ridiculous. Horrible, horrible little man. Completely rude and obnoxious, and tried to push in front of my mother, and that wasn't a very good idea because my mother didn't have a clue who he was, so she told him where to go. So shove that up your jumper, Philip Schofield. We like spiders. Yes, I love spiders, but I'm a little bit allergic to certain types of insects, and I did have a bad hand. You probably can't see it, but I did have a bad hand injury once from a spider, and it was pretty bad as a child, and it's still there. It will never go away. But anyway, you like Loose Ends. Yes, that's a nice program. I love The Kitchen Cabinet also, and of course, Broadcasting House on a Sunday. And I did used to love Reverend Richard Coles on Saturday Live. The new show is not quite as good, I will say. Nikki Beatty, she's a very nice lady, but if she'd had Reverend Richard Coles with her, it would be better, I would say. They should never have moved the program to Cardiff, a stupid place to move it to, because they don't get very good guests. if they'd kept it in London, it would have been far better because they would have had better guests. Moving programs to Manchester and Cardiff and silly places just because you've got to be politically correct and be nice to the people in the regions is not the way forward. We've got people chanting outside. I don't know what's going on, but it's nothing to do with the Seagull. They must be somewhere down the road. But anyway, the little bird seems to need attention, so I'm going to have to go and give it some attention. And I will be going soon. Loose Women is so woke. I wouldn't say Loose Women is woke. I would say it's misogynistic and it's anti-men, and it's just horrible. It's just sexist and revolting and oogling women, going on about men. When they had some man, Jake somebody or other, and they were like, "Ooh, can we grope you?" Basically, it's disgusting. It's revolting. It makes me feel sick. If we had a program called Misogynistic Men, it would be cancelled because people would say you can't go around saying grope the women. That would be totally inappropriate. And I totally agree. It would be inappropriate. So get rid of Loose Women as well. Ban the program. Get it off the screen. And I did start a petition on that once, but I didn't do it very well because I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, the petition on the sloth is over 1,000. So please sign the petition. I don't know if it will still paste it. Let's see. Here we are. Before we go, yes, please sign the petition. If you haven't signed the petition, please sign. Yes, there's grumpy men on YouTube. Well, yes, you hate the name Loose Women, says Bluebell. I totally agree with you. I don't hate it because I don't hate anything, but I just think it's inappropriate. I think it's totally unsuitable. But of course, you've got to have a bit of shock factor if you're at ITV, and you're going to have Tamara Eccleston and Fergie and the ghastly Gloria Hunniford, Inglorious Hunniford, as I call her, and that Janet Street Porter sort of loudmouth woman. They're not very classy people, are they? There we go. You're not attracting the highbrow, you're attracting the definite lowbrow. And then you've got the audience who look like, well, it's the emptying of a coach party from hell. And they're all going, They sound like they're feral, to be honest. We used to have Jerry Springer, but at least his programs were funny. This Loose Women, they're just loose lips who sink ships. They're just loudmouth, dreadful women. Harpies. They're a bunch of harpies. That's all they are. Absolutely shocking. Yeah. Yes, Little Britain. Anyway, I better go and check on this little seagull. So I shall go on my little merry way. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. And thank you very much for your participation. You've been a wonderful audience. And I will say good night, Pip Pip, and don't let the bed bugs bite and all of that, because there's certainly plenty of them here. Thank you very much to you all. And we'll be back again. We'll be back. I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but there we go. Take care, sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night.